Episode 125, Cringe Reviews, Fantastic Four. You're listening to the Visionary Variety Podcast. This week we're going to be doing a review of the 2015 film, The Fantastic Four, and this is a first in a series of episodes I'm going to call Cringe Reviews, where we discuss, try to understand, and also occasionally tear apart a movie that didn't do so great. So it's going to be a fun one. We're going to also talk about the future of the Fantastic Four and what's going to come up next in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And as you probably guessed, this episode will contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, it just popped up on Disney Plus, so you can go watch it there and then come back and listen to this episode if you want the full experience. Well, without further ado, let's get to it. Welcome to the Visionary Variety Podcast, where we cover cool stuff like photo, video, film, books, and technology. So switch on your brain and enjoy the show. All right, this is Daniel. Who else is on the show today? Who we got here?
Nate.
Hey, Nate.
Josh.
Welcome back. It's been a while.
I'm back.
It's been a long while.
Finally let me out of my cage.
And Abi.
Oh gosh, it's been even longer.
Yeah.
2-hour episode. Now, Josh and Abi, when was the last episode we had with both of you? I know we had one with both of you on it.
No, I don't think we were. We were scheduled for one.
No?
I think.
I think we were scheduled. I don't know if it actually happened.
Oh, sorry.
It was supposed to be Angela, Josh, and myself on, was it the Matrix episode?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I think so, actually.
And you didn't make it because you had some sort of spirituality commitment or something.
Well, yeah, you know.
Lame church stuff.
That darn church stuff always getting in the way.
I mean, those Matrix episodes were awesome.
Long.
They were so good. Yeah, they were so long, but it was so worth it. Well, so Fantastic Four, I did not see it when it came out. I saw it for the first time 2 days ago for this episode specifically.
Dude, same.
I wanted to see it, even though when it, like, right when it came out, it was being bashed. Like, it did not, it was bad right out of the gate as far as reviews and stuff. And that's probably why I wanted to watch it, but then I just kind of forgot about it and never got around to it. So this is the first viewing for me. How about you guys? Nate, yeah?
Oh no, yeah, first time. It was something.
No, I watched it in theaters.
I waited till it hit Redbox and I rented it there. I figured I'd spend $1.25 on renting it.
Safe.
And then but I've seen it 2 other times since then, so voluntarily, so.
Wow, you like pain.
You forced your wife to watch it with you too, is that right?
I did, and thankfully she still is with me. I mean, we are
I was
in
going to say, how's the divorce going?
Yeah, no divorce. Counseling, yes, but no divorce.
What were y'all's expectations going into this? Were you expecting it to be bad or hopeful? What were your feelings about it before you watched it?
I was really hopeful because being that MCU was starting to establish this, this reality-based kind of superheroes, or, as real as you can get, kind of more grounded on Earth and stuff. I was really hoping that they would do something similar with Fantastic Four. To my dismay, here we are.
They decided not to put it in the MCU. I wonder why.
It's owned by Fox.
Oh,
it was still owned by Fox, yeah.
But now it's owned by Disney, which they're going to do the remake, right? Is that why?
Uh-huh.
Okay. I'm getting ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about that later. Josh, what about you?
I had really high expectations. I mean, the casting, you think about it. I mean, Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Michael B. Jordan. I mean, just those 3. And then, I had high hopes. And when I saw that it came out and saw the previews and heard the reviews, my hopes were dashed. And then I saw it and they were dashed even further.
More dashing.
Well, Jamie Bell, the guy who played Ben Grimm, is a fantastic actor.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he was in that show that depicts the forefathers and Spy, Washington
Turn.
Spy. Was it Turned? Yeah, Turned.
Yeah,
fantastic series, amazing.
Oh yeah,
he did great in that, and I was the same.
He got way underappreciated in this movie.
Yeah.
Nate, how about you? What were your feelings before you watched it?
Not good. Hence why I just waited to watch until now. But I had some hope, and then that was quickly gone. So yeah.
Well, let's first talk about the casting and the acting. I just overall, I don't know. I felt like the acting was not good. I know Michael B. Jordan's a great actor. You guys are telling me the guy that played Ben was good. I just was very underwhelmed by the overall performance of everybody.
Miles Teller even mentioned it in some of his interviews. You know how people kind of said that he phoned it in, and the unfortunate thing is that's what it came across.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't come across as anybody actually
Like they
caring
were
about the
practicing.
script, caring about the movie. They were
Yeah.
just there for a paycheck.
It was like a read through. They weren't even like on screen yet,
Yeah.
on camera yet.
The
Yeah.
dialogue didn't feel realistic. Nobody was
Mm.
talking over each other when they should have, kind of thing, which is kind of what like Marvel is now really good at. You know, they have realistic, natural conversations, and this felt really, offbeat.
The opening scenes I felt were so like it was a cool concept. It was completely unbelievable with the kid, young Reed. But that kid, man, has he taken any acting classes? Because I was not feeling anything from him. It was just dry. And even the guy that played grown up Reed, I just felt like it wasn't really well. I guess it kind of goes back to what I said in general. I wasn't impressed by any of the acting.
Yeah.
But that kid actor too, it was rough.
There wasn't any leadership in the acting. I think that nobody stood out where Reed Richards should have been like the commanding leader. He
Yeah.
didn't stand out as a leader of the group,
No.
especially with him abandoning the group, right off at the beginning or right after the accident, like, and not showing
And
up.
why did he do that?
I don't know. That is so weird. It's not even,
Yeah, it was a big hole.
it's like, why did he run away for a year? It just doesn't make any sense. So the thought is that it didn't feel like there was any cohesiveness to the group aside from Ben and Reed being friends in school, which is what that whole first thing was. That whole first scene about them in elementary school was trying to establish, because that's what they were missing. There was no connection between the members other than Ben and Reed, and so I think that,
Which is odd because aren't they siblings as well?
No.
Sue and
That's nice.
Johnny are siblings.
Yeah, but they didn't seem like it at all.
But they weren't. She was adopted from the Ukraine, so it's completely completely
It just
separate.
there was no bond, even if they were. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. There was no development in the relationships, and so it was just really really weird. Like the connections were forced. Actually, not even forced. They were barely hanging on by a thread, and I think that's what makes that group so special. I mean, they're called MCU's, or they're called Marvel's first family for a reason, and in comics and stuff like that. And so, this was not the first family of anything. Actually, one of my notes, I was watching the scene, and in the scene, they're like in charge of this SpaceX like experiment, this huge NASA government funded experiment, and it's like these kids that haven't even gone to college yet.
I could not get over that. That took me out of it so hard.
How are these guys in charge? It's almost like they hired them just so that they could have longevity in their parts, and it made it completely unbelievable.
Now I gotta put this out here because before I forget about it, you were talking about Reed Richards escaping and all that stuff. Why did he have to wear that suit? Could he just not worn like a tank top and shorts and been fine?
What really bothered me about that whole thing is it was very Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton.
Yeah.
Scientist does something cool. It goes bad. He runs away to Latin America. The government, somebody comes to find him, sponsored by the government. He comes back, saves the day. And it was and while I was watching it here recently with my wife again, that's all I could think about was they just recycled the Incredible Hulk. And the only thing that makes sense to me with why he had to wear the suit, you see him in the first fight with Doom, and those little rings that go down his arms and down his legs start popping off, and he just kind of starts stretching and kind of oozing. So I'm almost wondering if those rings somehow were connected to some form of a system that allowed him to control his ability, and that's why he continued to wear the suit.
Well, that's why Johnny and Sue kept their suit on too. They actually said it. That's what helps them control their powers.
That's true. let's talk about the origin of these powers, because I got a problem with this. So when they're in the pod coming back to Earth, or our Earth, whatever, I don't know, they ever explained what planet this was. When they're coming back, fire comes into Johnny's capsule and somehow merges with the help of this sentient green goo, and he gets the fire power. Then there's rocks shoot into his capsule, and he gets rock power. What about Reed? Like, was he stretching in his capsule to get stretchy? I don't know where that came from. And then somehow the shockwave hit Sue through the portal and gave her powers of invisibility.
I thought he was reaching for his capsule door and trying to. That's what I vaguely remember.
Yeah, it's really quick. It was really quick.
Oh, okay. So it was there. I wrote this down. I was like, if he was reaching for a lever or something, that would have been great because then it would have made sense. But I didn't.
Yeah, he was reaching to close the door.
Oh, so he was the one freaking out. He's like, my door's not closing. My door. That was him?
No, that was Ben. Ben was.
That was Ben.
Oh, okay.
And then and then Johnny's tube caught fire, and he was reaching to close his door, trying to reach, and it was opening and shutting, and then the quantum explosion is what caught Sue.
Always those dang quantum things.
Yeah, that's a big source of power now, I guess.
Quantum everything. Mm-hmm. I thought it was interesting how they had a face mask on, but they also had a ventilator on their mouth inside the face mask. Mm-hmm. It's a little redundant, don't you think?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm being nitpicky.
When you're going into another dimension, it's not just going to space. I mean, you're going to another dimension.
We have another case of stupid scientist syndrome in this movie where they stick the flag in the ground and they notice these green, like, moving things, and there's no problem with that. And then they're like, let's go over there, like 5 miles away, and let's climb down this cliff randomly. What could possibly go wrong? I was shaking my head so hard. I encourage you guys to watch the Cinema Sins video for this movie because it's hilarious. And one of the things that I was like saying yes so hard to is when he's narrating the trailer, or he's narrating the video, and he goes, "Where did these nerds get the rock climbing skills from?" I'm like, it's so true. Why do they even have rock climbing equipment? It's so random.
There was just a lot of open-ended why.
I've seen this trope before, though. It's annoying, and it annoys me that the scientist that makes an invention or makes a portal or makes a ship is also the one that qualifies himself to be the first user of it and go do something dangerous when that's totally like not his qualifications or expertise.
That's a really valid point. And actually, I actually thought that was the only redeeming quality of them actually wanting to go when Victor says, who were the engineers that sent Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong to the moon? Everybody remembers Neil Armstrong. Everybody remembers Buzz Aldrin, but nobody remembers the engineers. And he was like, yes. And so that's when they decided, no, screw that. It's not going to be some national poster boy.
Someone who's actually trained for this.
Yeah, it's going to be us. We're going to take our place in history. And so I thought that was actually a valid reason for them to go.
Yeah, I like that, but if you think it through, there's a reason why nerdy computer programmers in office are not the ones using their devices because they're not trained for years and have college PhDs in all these fields to go do these things.
True.
Well, okay, so that whole scene in the movie was essentially the way most good or bad stories start, and they start with "Here, hold my beer." I mean, and that's exactly what happened. They were sitting there getting drunk. Yeah, I mean, tequila was involved. Get off me.
Yeah, true. Oh, I know I'm going backwards, but early on in the movie, when young Reed is looking for a power converter, did anyone else say "Go to Tashi Station"?
No.
I was just like, dude, that's such a Star Wars reference right there. He's like, I need a power converter.
Don't kill me.
Well, okay, so speaking of that scene, did anybody have an issue with 2 8-year-olds walking down the street with this giant electrical box off of a telephone pole? Like,
simpler times.
Excuse me, bad guys. Like, somebody needs to watch the 8-year-olds. Like, where's their parent?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of parent supervision.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of parenting going on. Yeah.
Did y'all catch the Nintendo 64 server rack?
Yes, that was so
awesome. Funny. I'm like, what is he using these for? Graphic processor units or something? It was ridiculous. And he had a Nintendo 64 controller for some weird reason. Yeah, that was pretty cute.
That was funny. Back to the scene where they made the hold my beer decision. They literally, they had the right before that. when all the government officials came in and said, "You guys aren't going. You guys blah blah blah." All of a sudden, Victor, he's hated these guys for forever, and he's like, and he says, "Hey guys, want to go catch a drink?" And he pulls out this flask out of nowhere. I was like, "Wait, when did he have a drinking problem?" Remember when Dr. Storm, the dad, goes to him to ask him to come back. Was he drinking or anything there? I don't remember him. I remember he was disheveled.
He was just playing violent video games.
Yeah. Probably hacking some third world country or something like that. But yeah, I just thought it was really weird that it literally, like Josh says, it was a literal hold my beer moment.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he was sitting there playing the video games and, like you said, hacking some third world country while wearing his Google Glass.
Yeah, I noticed. I was like, what is that thing on his eye? That was funny.
Oh, wow. I totally missed that. But yeah.
They should have added the little overlays to make it more clear that this is like a piece of technology, because it just looked like a piece of glass. Like glass is glass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So many. I mean, this is the Marvel version of Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds. I mean,
the one they try to forget about.
Yep.
Even Josh Trank, the director, was like bashing it, and he admits it is not great. But it's funny because he claims that he has literally, he said, a fantastic version of the movie that no one will ever see. I'm like, sure, okay. Pretty sure no matter how you cut this movie, it's not going to be great.
I mean, just wait till HBO Max gets a hold of it.
What if someone did that and just got all the other cuts of movies and released alternate cuts? That would be kind of cool.
I would actually be okay with that.
Yeah, there was another movie that they're doing that to besides Justice League. Yeah, besides the Justice League one, there's something else. I can't remember.
Interesting.
I read about it after I was looking at the Snyder Cut stuff.
Avengers Endgame. Apparently, there was a whole bunch of other scenes they shot for that.
But I think they said that was made to throw off the cast.
I know there were some scenes shot for Rise of Skywalker and probably even The Last Jedi that were pretty significant that were never used. One thing that annoyed me a lot about this movie was I want to call him the bad guy, but he was like the military leader or the government representative. Mm-hmm. He had the real long face. I don't remember his name. The guy that chewed gum in almost every scene. Did y'all notice that?
No, I didn't.
You're talking about the guy who played Dr. Allen. Tim Blake Nelson is the actor.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah, him. The gum chewing guy. It drove me insane. There's even a scene where he's like, when he's like taking control of the program, he's speaking to like top representatives of the military and government. And what is he doing while he talks to these like leaders of the nation? He's chewing gum.
No, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. Like contractors, that's exactly how they are. It's highly disrespectful.
Yeah. Well, this guy apparently had none.
Yeah.
I think the first scene or two with him, he wasn't chewing gum, but every scene after that, even up till the end, he was chewing gum. And I was just like, stop with the gum. I don't have like a thing with people eating food. But in movies, I don't like when people eat food in a movie. I know it's fake. It bothers me. And then chewing gum, apparently is in there too. I don't like that.
I have a problem hearing people eat food, so I can't.
Oh yeah, if I can hear it. I mean, no one should like that. Like my son, my 3-year-old, he'll smack when he eats sometimes, and I shut that down real quick. I'm like, oh heck no, not in my house. You're not smacking.
Yeah.
So,
so one scene that really kind of annoyed me, besides the entire movie, but so right there at this science fair, when Ben and Reed are older now, and they're showing off the new version of their transporter, and all of a sudden it blows, like the sonic vibration blows up the backboard, and
no
the guy's
cares.
like, "You're disqualified," and because there is no science here. I'm like, that was exactly
so
science.
Yeah, that's the worst science teacher ever.
Yeah, he was horrible.
Yeah, that one really bugged me.
He was the same science teacher as when Reed was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so he saw this kid's proposal of this wild idea. Now he's actually making it, and it's doing stuff.
Yeah.
And he's still the worst science teacher ever after like 10, 15 years. That
would be impressive if I saw that in high school.
I know. I'm like, let's look at this. What just happened here? Something's happening. Total science fail.
Apparently he's seen better. So
right.
Yeah, right.
The volcano.
Standards are high.
Well, yeah, he says it later on that a volcano he lost to a volcano one of those things.
And why was Dr. Storm there? Does Dr. Storm and his daughter just go to like high school science fairs looking for transporting technology? Like, is that just the regular thing they do every week? Because why were they there? It just seemed really random.
It's a great point.
Yeah, it was. It was a very random place for him to be at. And she's just standing there taking pictures of it.
Like a
and
creeper.
Ben notices, like he sees her take pictures of it and doesn't say anything.
Yeah, I thought they were going to steal the design, honestly.
They probably could have, because they figured it out. They're like, oh, look what he did. This is what we're missing. And like, hey, we're going to pay you now for exactly what we just realized we're doing wrong.
And even though like Ben and Rita been at this for years, Ben forgets the car somehow.
I may have misunderstood, but it almost made it sound like she's like, so you just been doing this? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, oh, okay. So you're just leaving these holes open? And he's like, oh. Basically, that's when basically she brought to the attention of you just going to leave a black hole or a wormhole or whatever.
Oh, yeah. She mentioned destroying the whole planet with a black hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that. I hated that part because it's like, it's so cliche. It's like, oh, you're going to tear a hole in this fabric of space-time and cause a singularity. I'm like, does everything cause a singularity? I'm like,
do you hope this doesn't come back later in the movie? Ooh.
Right. She basically gave it away.
You're right. Josh, you were saying random information?
Backtrack to the beginning of the movie to young Reed and young Ben Grimm. When you see Ben, he walks up to his house and his brother's like, hey, I told you to do this or something. Are you just going to leave the pile of refrigerators? The actor that plays his older brother in the movie is Chet Hanks, Tom Hanks's son.
Oh, the rapper?
Yeah. Yeah,
well, he's a rapper?
Yeah, whatever he
is. The Jamaican rapper. Yeah, he's a Jamaican rapper.
The Jamaican rapper, yeah.
He's not Jamaican looking. Okay.
No,
don't look up the videos. They're more cringy than this review.
They are.
Oh, so he's a perfect fit.
Poor Tom Hanks.
Yeah, so it was perfect casting. So
that's funny. So let's talk about the last act of the movie. It all just finished so quickly. When the movie was literally over, I was looking around. I was like, wait a second. The movie's over. This is weird. Like, the fight scene with Dr. Doom was super fast and not very climactic. They destroyed him way easily with one punch. And
it's clobbering time.
Yeah, you know where Ben got that line? From his abusive older brother. What the heck?
Yeah, that was, I didn't like that.
His brother says that to him. I'm like, all right.
Well, hurt people hurt people.
Yeah, sure. Ben's got issues. What's y'all's opinion on the last act of the movie, the climax, if you want to call it that? The
boss battle?
It was okay, this sounds bad for comparison. I really like Wonder Woman, the movie. But it kind of gave me the same feeling for the whole build-up, and then it was just kind of over. I was like, dude, really? Okay, cool. And I was kind of disappointed towards the end, and I was like, well, I guess we've been spoiled with the normal MCU really long battles that continue through the movie, and this was just kind of the traditional boom, pow, it's clobbering time, and it was over. I was like, dude.
So, I will not proudly say this. I started watching the movie while I was sitting at my office and got through the entire movie with the exception of the last 32 minutes of the film. Got home, turned it on, and got about 10 minutes, 15 minutes into it. And then that last battle, the boss battle, lasted 10 or 15 minutes. And, it's this hour and a half, hour, 45 minute, whatever it is, build up to a 10-minute fight. It's like, okay, come on. Totally. I mean, this is... Now, I can kind of understand the timing and the pacing of it if this was like 1980s and like The Karate Kid or something like along those lines. But this was 2015. Like, we were expecting more. We had already had two Fantastic Four movies that actually were not bad, in my opinion. Not great,
little
but not
cheeky,
bad.
little campy. But but there was story and there was plot.
Yeah, and there was build-up, and then the final fight scenes actually took time. And this one, it was definitely one of those. It was one of those. I wonder if either one, they were running out of their budget and had to wrap it up quick, or the actors were sitting there and they were like, "Bro, I'm not filming another day. Like, let's get this over with because I'm going home." But yeah, it was this great. I thought it was a pretty good buildup. I think if the fight scene, that final battle, had lasted longer, I think it would have redeemed the rest of the movie a little bit more. But literally, it was, wham, bam. Ben comes running out of nowhere. It's clobbering time. Hit one punch, knockout, and it was like, okay.
Also, was there suddenly oxygen on that planet? Because they didn't have masks on when they went there.
Thank you. I actually asked my
What the
wife
heck?
that. I was like, "How are they breathing on this planet
The
where
green goo.
there is no oxygen?" And her response was, "Well, the planet gave them powers, so maybe they can breathe there now."
That's what
Like-
my wife said, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Don't
I said the
make
same
excuses.
thing. Like, no.
During that final battle, Dr. Doom somehow opens up like a wormhole, black hole laser thing that is sucking stuff from Earth and bringing it there, and then destroying it. I did not know what was what was going on with that thing.
Yeah, no idea.
There was a subtle theme underneath the whole thing, which was I think they were trying to make Dr. Doom into some sort of anti-hero by adopting the climate change, kind of mantra, which is that, if you guys can't, how do you expect to, have access to another planet when you can't take care of your own, which was Dr. Doom's onus. He's like, no, you can't have this planet. And so his thought was that the planet gave him these powers so that he can protect it. And he utilized those powers to open up a wormhole to help feed that new planet resources from Earth. I mean, it's convoluted. Because I was trying to figure out, okay, what's his reasoning for being this guy, and it's
I don't disagree with it as far as the movie goes, but that's against Dr. Doom, the traditional Dr.
exactly,
Doom.
yeah.
Because Dr. Doom does not want to destroy the whole Earth. He wants to make a perfect utopia, which he does. It's called Latveria, right? His little country.
Yes,
So he makes his own country or becomes king of a country. Apparently, he's actually a decent king, monarch. And he is sort of an anti-hero in the comics because he's not all bad. I even watched or read one little spot where he goes to Wakanda and he goes into the vibranium vault. And what's that big cat king that like the Wakandans worship?
Black Panther.
The deity character.
Oh, I don't
anyway,
know. Yeah.
He comes face to face with that big like being and is judged by it to see if he was worthy or not of getting the vibranium. And I think he passes the test. Very different depiction in the comics.
Yeah.
Now, maybe they were expecting to make this into a trilogy, and the second one he would come to Earth and have a different take on things. I don't know. Definitely not your typical, not the normal Doctor Doom, from what I understand.
Yeah, not at all. No, and I think Doctor Doom's ideology comes from having lived the life of being defeated and his ideas being just crushed underneath, and so that despair is what causes him to kind of go mad and become the character that he is. I mean, this guy's 21 years old. He doesn't have that life experience. He just doesn't have it. So that's also makes it not believable to me. None of the characters were very believable. Like, when you're 40 or 45 and you think, oh, I'm downtrodden.
Like in the original Fantastic Four.
Yeah, I have this. This just oppression. At 20, you're not really oppressed.
No.
By society in that fashion. So that also didn't make it very. You might be passionate about an ideology, but you don't have that type of oppression that would lead you to become some sociopathic.
Sure.
villain.
Yeah, he's only 20. And going back to what I said about Doctor Doom being totally not comic book like based in this movie, neither are the Fantastic Four. They were like old and they were like, late mid 30s to maybe 40s.
They were accomplished. They were accomplished scientists, not just some kid straight out of high school, It's like all of these kids were LeBron James, It's just like
out of nowhere.
Yeah, that was the nice thing about the first two movies because they were older, they were more established. Whereas this 2015 cast, they were all kids, and with Christopher Nolan coming out with the Dark Knight series and MCU trying to definitely root themselves in some form of reality. Like this is potentially a possibility, and even the DCEU trying to do the same thing. This movie, you've got an 8-year-old that has made a teleportation device in his garage
Okay.
with an N64 controller. I mean, and then fast forward, he's at a high school science fair and gets discovered by this guy and is whisked away to the big city. And, immediately, as we said earlier, thrown into this SpaceX type situation where the kids are running the castle. And yeah,
What a nightmare.
it just.
Yeah, so many wrong things. Well, let's move on to the next part of the episode. Let's talk about some reviews we found online. This is something I want to do more of for movie reviews. If it's a really great movie, I want to find those 1-star movie reviews that people just hate on the movies. And if it's a 1-star movie, like this one, then I want to find those 5-star reviews where people just love it. And I want to find out why. I want to see what's going on in their head that makes people love these movies. So I'll read my first one, and Josh, you can do yours next. So my first review I got off of Rotten Tomatoes, and this is a 5-star review, mind you. It says, despite the rest of the ratings, I love this movie very, very much. I think that the reason people didn't like it as much is because it's heavily backstory based, but the team's powers are all exhibited in this movie nonetheless. It was definitely a feel-good movie, also with its edge of the seat and goosebump moments.
Wow.
Overall, it was very well-made movie. All right. Well, that's how he feels.
Well, so I'm actually gonna balance that one out with a not so favorable review.
All right.
This one is actually Peter Travers of Rolling Stone. His review was the latest reboot of the Fantastic Four, the cinematic equivalent of malware, is worse than worthless. It not only scrapes the bottom of the Marvel movie barrel, it knocks out the floor and sucks the audience into a black hole of soul-crushing, coma-inducing dullness.
Oh, wow.
And guess what? It's an origin story. That's right. A gifted young cast, Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, Michael B. Jordan, has been hired to freshen the plot, like an old whore trying to pass as jailbait.
An old what?
Oh my gosh.
And an old woman of the night, as my grandmother would say.
Oh.
But yeah, there you go. There's that one.
Wow. That's colorful. I think that review is better than the whole movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the comparison to malware.
Yeah.
And that was good.
That's great. Well, I have another 5-star review. This one's a little long, so I'm probably going to just cut it off. You'll see why it gets a little ranty. So it says, this movie is incredible, and people hating on it because Johnny Storm was played by a sexy black man by the name of Michael B. Jordan. Racist bigots came together and destroyed the credibility of this film. Okay. If anything, this movie may have been too long for the typical ADD moviegoers. It's only an hour and 47 minutes.
Yeah, it's short.
Yeah.
Okay. But if Star Wars is a long film and Lord of the Rings is a 4-hour film, I don't think it's actually 4 hours, but I guess staring at a strong heterosexual black man around a white woman has a tendency to piss off white male comic book fans, which are typically the same inferior complex that white men feel when they see a young, healthy, okay, it's just, yeah.
Yeah. That's a different route there.
So let me see.
Wow.
But they were step siblings. It wasn't like they had a romantic connection.
Relationship.
They were,
Yeah.
I mean, they were not step siblings. They were adopted siblings. I mean, she was adopted by Dr. Storm and they grew up together. So yeah, that's a plot for a whole different type of film right there.
Yeah,
That is not.
That would bother me too. So what's weird, the person who signed off on this review on, what was it? Rotten Tomatoes, her name is Zipporah G. That is my daughter's name and last name initial.
Oh, did she write this review right after you guys watched this or what?
Did she time travel or I need answers because I'm very upset at her.
Wow.
I trained her better.
So here's one. This one's actually on Google. It was a gentleman. Well, I won't even read the name of the guy who wrote it. And he wrote this actually 10 months ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is actually relatively recent. After years of hearing nothing but awful things about this reboot, I stayed away until my interest peaked again, and I heard about Marvel doing another reboot in a few years, so I figured,
Yeah.
why the blank not? And here we are. And I'm happy to report I didn't find this to be the abomination that some people on the web make it out to be. In fact, I actually quite liked it. He goes on to talk about how Michael B. Jordan had a movie prior to this called Chronicle, which also dealt with some superhero type powers. So he talks about Chronicle and how much he liked that one.
That was cool.
Let's see. Seeing Reed and Ben form their friendship in the beginning was great. Sue and him occasionally flirting, hinting at their future relationship. As for Michael B. Jordan, I found him to be a great Johnny Storm. Doom, of course, is in it, but barely. But when he shows up towards the end, man, it is awesome. Can you tell? Can you tell there? You can tell there. Trank was going for something different, and the studio clearly didn't support his original vision. I'm sure somewhere on the cutting room floor is a really great film, but for the one we got, I found it compelling, small-scaled origin story, so fantastic for the worst of the worst. Yet I beg to differ. So this guy really liked it, and
yeah, Josh Trank is the director of Chronicle and Fantastic Four.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
I liked Chronicle. I was hoping for a sequel. It could go some cool places if y'all remember the ending.
That one was good. And I think they picked him up because of Chronicle. So
Yeah, he was young there.
Yeah, Chronicle kind of led to him, Josh, doing this movie. And I guess now that I think about Chronicle, yeah, it kind of leaves you hanging. Like at the ending, that fight with the third kid, the kid who goes evil on everybody, is it kind of leaves you hanging the same, and it's like, well, what happened there?
Well, one more review. This is a very short one. And the person's name, this is a 2-star review. The person's name is Reed R. So I'm guessing Reed Richards himself went around Rotten Tomatoes and wrote a review. And the review is just this: one punch, and that's it? I feel you.
Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, as far as reviews, it didn't help the fact that Miles Teller came out and he openly kind of dissed the movie. Kate Mara has actually come out and said that she's never seen it and will never watch it.
Doesn't want to.
And even Josh Trank, he came out after it and said that he was never going to do another superhero movie ever because of it.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miles Teller, he said, "You work harder on the bad films or the films that turn out maybe not the way you intended because something's not working." Ouch.
Yeah.
Pretty telling.
It's sad.
Well, let's talk about some good things that we did like, if we can find any. You guys, any redeeming things you liked about the movie or were impressed by?
Visuals were really cool.
Yeah, they were. They were good.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was the only thing I was not as impressed was the Thing, The Rock. He was a little too CG, but
I thought he looked great.
I guess I was spoiled from the first one.
See, I would agree with Daniel on that. This version of the Thing was a little bit more, to me, what I would expect to see somebody that's been turned into a quote unquote rock monster.
Yeah.
I would expect him to look more like that as opposed to the Thing in the original 2 movies.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Michael Chiklis playing Ben Grimm and playing the Thing in the first 2 movies, I thought did a really good job about bringing the humanity that Ben Grimm had. But I liked this version of the Thing. The visual effects were good. I thought they were really good. I thought the casting was great.
I thought the VFX were great. Like that ending sequence with that like confusing beam energy thing, that was really cool. The invisibility powers and the force field stuff was nice. The machine itself, like that they teleported with, I think that might have been all CG, and it looked great. I mean, it looked very realistic to me. And that suit that Dr. Doom was wearing at the end, I'm assuming it was a bodysuit, that looked really awesome. Like he was terrifying.
The one that was fused to his body.
Yeah, he was walking through the hallways, just destroying people's heads. That was like, I was into it at that moment. I was like, oh, this is dark. This is really dark, actually. But
I think
cool.
all that stuff could have been all the stuff that we've mentioned. If there was just a better boss battle, I think If the boss battle had been more satisfying, less One Punch Man and more like Infinity War or something like that, something, you know, big and epic, and you know, he's about to win and something else happens. I don't know. I think people would have forgiven a lot more. What's interesting to note is I just picked up a little thing that Josh, typically the director gets to be in the editing room. He had zero input.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he had zero input in the final cut. So they cut him out, essentially. It's almost like everybody kind of like gave up on him as a director. And they like, okay, no, you have no say in this cutting room floor kind of thing. And so
that's no fun.
Yeah, and I'm reading the article, and it states something along the lines that movie kind of broke him from movies. And I think one of you guys already mentioned that he's never going to do a superhero movie again. But he was like, I'm done. I'm done with that genre. So
that's crazy.
So let's close out the episode with talking about, the future of the Fantastic Four on the big screen. Right. Let's move forward. So Kevin Feige announced in 2019, if my source was correct, that they are going to be making a new movie and that it's in development, actually. So it's probably on hold right now because of the virus. But that's exciting. And you guys think it's going to work its way into the MCU, the bigger story?
I hope so. But can I just say, let's do like they did with Spider-Man. We don't need an origin story. We know that they get powers. Let's just pick it up to where they're an older, established team.
That'd be cool.
John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, right off the bat. Right off the bat.
You saw that too?
Nobody wants anybody else. else.
He could do it.
No, that was really it. I just make it part of. They're starting to introduce the multiverse, that and that gives you the perfect introduction to
totally.
X-Men are on Earth 14. Fantastic Four is on Earth 7. I mean, however you want to introduce it, we don't need an origin story, Marvel. You proved it with Spider-Man that you can give us a successful movie without the origin. Fantastic Four, we've had 4 movies of origin stories. Stop it.
If anyone could figure out the multiverse and traveling between them, it would be Reed Richards.
Yes.
So that would be cool if they worked him into the discovery of that somehow.
Well, Doctor Doom has some comic lore in the Quantum Kingdom. And so so one of the kingdoms that he sets up in one of the series runs, like one of the alternate stories to the utopia that he has, is in the quantum realm.
Oh, interesting.
And so I watched just kind of like a breakdown that so where everybody thinks that the what's the Black Knight that's coming up in the Eternals.
Yeah.
That Doctor Doom is the king of the kingdom that the Black Knight comes from, who is in the quantum realm. And so the quantum utopia is run by Victor Von Doom. And the idea is that the reason that we haven't heard about the Fantastic Four yet, now this is major spoiler warnings in case I'm right about any of this, but I've pieced it together from about 3 different sources, is that they were in the 60s and the 70s, that they're going to start the movie in the 60s and the 70s, not an origin story, but that they're an old, that they're working with Hank Pym.
Nice. I love that.
on the base, and somehow they disappear, which is why Hank Pym then becomes super paranoid about other people because they're really good friends with him, and he's like super paranoid about causing another accident like that, and so they teleport into the quantum realm, or they disappear into the quantum realm, and then they reappear in 2023 or whatever.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's where they've been. And then Hank Pym is still alive, and he kind of fills them all in on what's been going on. And that's how they're kind of introduced. Now, another thing is that we've already seen elements of the Baxter building in Far From Home. So Far From Home, when at the very end, the end credit sequence when Spider-Man is flying through, and you guys see we have something in store for you, and it says 1, 2, 3, and then there's nothing on the end. That was supposed to be a kind of subtle Easter egg to introduce part 4, but when he's flying through the air, a lot of people don't realize that he's flying through the remodeled Avengers Tower, which is now rebranded as the Baxter Building.
Is that the event? Is that the Fantastic Four's tower?
Yes. That's where they do all of
awesome.
their science and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who can pretty much afford, to have privatized science or something like that. But that atrium that he flies through is part of the remodel in the Baxter Building. So they already exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's just we haven't seen them because they've been out of time. And
darn you, Kevin Feige, how do you do all this?
I mean, I think I've heard that they have like through phase 7 kind of relatively mapped out.
Jeez.
6 or 7, and it's just a matter of figuring out the details and filling in those plot holes, because they're huge on trying to fill as many gaps as they can. And even if it's retconning, even if it happens to retcon something.
No. I was just going to say, I know one rumor that I've heard is actually, so kind of going back to Victor Von Doom, Dr. Doom going to Wakanda and going into the Vibranium vaults and dealing with that. One of the rumors is that Dr. Doom is going to make an appearance in Black Panther 2. And that's going to how they introduce him when he goes into the vibranium vaults and deals with and the Panther god is Bast. Bast.
Right. There you go. Thank you.
And so that's one of the rumors also, is this is how they start introducing them, besides those subtle hints, because I think it's almost been confirmed that the old Avengers Tower is the Baxter Building. Because I've heard that for quite a while now. And so the Hank Pym tie-in I hadn't heard, but that'd be kind of cool. I mean, you get a kind of a Captain America throwback where he's frozen and they disappear into the quantum realm, and so there's this kind of they're kind of out of time, people out of time, and making this new time their own. But I think it would work with the Fantastic Four, and especially bringing in the Black Knight from that quantum realm, and Victor Von Doom comes in from that quantum realm also. I mean, that's a really good way to tie it all in.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
There's a really cool YouTube video that talks about them, that they're introducing Victor Von Doom before the Fantastic Four. And he's probably slated. I want to say that they're going to probably put him in Ant-Man 3. And because again, it goes back to that tie-in with Hank Pym. And being able to manipulate things at the quantum level. What's Michelle Pfeiffer's character? She has some run-in with Victor Von Doom in the quantum realm, and she's the one that warns them and stuff like that. And he's still alive. There's still a lot of story that she tells him in Ant-Man 2. There's so much I need to tell you. Yeah. And so in Ant-Man 3 is where she divulges all this stuff that she's experienced in the quantum realm, and she needs to tell him about Reed Richards and Sue and Johnny and all of them, and because she goes into the quantum realm and she comes out with powers. Remember that? So
what was her powers?
Remember she heals that girl that oscillates out of phase. In Ant-Man 2.
No, I don't remember that.
She comes out and she has like these healing powers that are similar to the binary powers that Captain Marvel uses. She has that kind of like that binary glow in her hands when she's healing that girl in Ant-Man 2. And so that kind of plays into it, and so the quantum realm pretty much becomes a source of power for humanity, and so that's where they'll probably explain mutants and where some of these things come. Anyways, there's so much really cool tie-ins. That's awesome. Probably my favorite. What I've explained and what Josh has alluded to is that they're displaced. And I think one other thing is Reed Richards has always been kind of Captain America-esque to me, in that he has a lot of virtues. He's Americana kind of thing, American boy kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if you think about, how our society has progressed or digressed depending on your flavor of morals or whatever, the 60s and the 50s are very, very relatively wholesome outside of, politics and stuff like that. But, you think of Leave It to Beaver and I Love Lucy, and very wholesome era. And so when I think of Reed Richards, he's not a very bombastic person to quickly use his powers to try to quell things. He's more of a reasonable guy. Hey, empathetic. He tries to show compassion, and he doesn't want to hurt people unless it's absolutely necessary, in which case then they utilize all their powers together. But again, it all points back to a time when family and relationships meant a lot. I don't want to get political or anything, but just meant a lot more, I guess. And so it just fits. It fits perfectly.
So what you're trying to say is make Marvel great again. That's what you're trying to say.
No. Oh, man. But I think that's the kind of character. That kind of character would come out of, I think, the 60s and the 70s, the love era.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Peace, love. Let's try to make peace on everything. Let's try to be diplomatic. Let's try to be, let's try to nurture and cultivate relationships as opposed to, trying to destroy everything, using nuclear force or mutually assured destruction. We can work this out kind of thing.
Well, that'll be fun to have that kind of that out of time role filled by them. Since Captain America's gone.
I just found an article saying that the early rumors are saying that somewhere between Phase 4 and Phase 6 is when the Fantastic Four would be getting their movie. And in this article, it does talk about the Hank Pym and Michelle Pfeiffer's, so Janet and Hank Pym working with Reed and Sue, and they somehow get trapped in what they call the negative zone, which is part of the quantum realm.
I feel like if they came in is Phase 4 next with the Eternals?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just feel like it would be a little crowded if they came in at this next phase with the Eternals and things like that. So maybe Phase 5, which I don't know what that's even going to entail. Would be exciting to see them pop up, maybe as a cliffhanger at the end of 4, and then Phase 5 picks that up and runs with it.
Well, so according to this article, it says that Doctor Doom will be involved in a big Secret Wars movie. So,
so that's the shapeshifters.
Yes,
I really thought Phase 4 would be all about, but apparently it's about Eternals. So.
Yeah, so. And if this does come to fruition, spoiler alert, it has been confirmed Emily Blunt has been in talks with Marvel already.
What about John Scorsese? What's his name?
John Krasinski, her husband. It doesn't say anything about that. It does specifically say Emily Blunt has recently confirmed. She's confirmed
Chris
it.
Evans be Mr. Fantastic.
Henry Cavill.
Chris Evans could reprise his role as the Human Torch.
Johnny Storm. Yeah,
that'd be so wrong. Well, I think that sums it up for this episode. Thank you guys for joining and putting in your 2 cents.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Nate, since this was a first viewing for you, I'll apologize to you, but not to the others for making you watch this movie.
No, I wanted to see it, but now I kind of regret it, but I'm sure.
Hey, look at it this way. After we did a review of the Star Wars Holiday Special, any movie is great.
Yeah, that's true. That was a train wreck happening in slow motion, so.
Yeah. This episode is the first of my Cringe Reviews series I want to do. So we're going to review movies that are generally not held in a great light, a good reputation. So I'm not sure what will be next on our plate. It'll be fun nonetheless. Well, thank you guys again, and anyone listening out there, if you liked or hated the movie, I would love to hear back from you guys. You can message us at any of our social media accounts, or you can send us an email at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening, and have a great week. If you like this show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app. You can also find our previous episodes there and listen whenever you want. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, you can reach us at tvvpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and have a great week. And
you're about to get it.
Bend over.